Okay, good morning, everyone. Happy Saturday. Happy walk and talk. How's everybody doing this morning?
Doing great.
Good morning.
Good
Great.
morning.
All right, all right. I know everybody's kind of getting their coffee and getting woke up, and some of us are in some wintry weather, and others are, in beautiful sunny weather. But we're going to get going here, and I know we've got a number of topics on the docket. Our format here is to just kind of go round robin. And I know that one of the topics that is going to be covered today is on the topic of leptin. Leptin is a hormone that is particularly important when it comes to weight loss, and it highlights the importance of getting good quality sleep. So I know that that's one of the topics that we are going to be covering here, and we'll just see how we roll here. So with that, we're going to go ahead and get started. Carol, I often go to you, but I know that you've got a Easter egg hunt set up and everything else going on down there. But if you are willing and available to go ahead and start us off here, why don't we go ahead and start with you?
That sounds great, Eric. Can you hear me all right?
We sure can. Yep, we can hear you
Okay.
pretty good. Not as good as usual, but we can hear you pretty well.
Okay, well, I'll speak loud and I'll make this brief because I want to hear about leptin. I'm excited about that. I think we kind of got you cut short last week, and I really want to hear about that. But anyway, a couple things I wanted to just share, and one of them, and pardon me if it's kind of noisy out here. I'm working under limited conditions, but it's called mindset over mattress. And Eric, you were talking about getting a good night's sleep, and that is super, super important. But what I found in getting a good night's sleep is getting to bed early enough so that you're not sleeping half the morning too. So you can get that good night's sleep, but you can also get a valuable day, a valuable morning, and a start into the day. And I think this HealthPointe, I have to really congratulate Eric on putting the walk and talk together. And when he said, get out and walk at 8 o'clock in the morning, I don't usually walk that early. And I thought, oh, yuck. But I'll tell you something, when you do that, it's just amazing. When you come back, you just want to take on the world. It's all the invaluable information that all of you, lend out. And Eric always wraps up with the fabulous sector of the program.
Come on, I gave you breakfast.
Program and Hank. And so it's really a valuable time. So can you still hear me? Can
we
you
sure
hear me?
can, Carol. Yep, we sure can.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I heard somebody say they couldn't hear me. Okay, anyway, so I think I'm going to speak to those that are new and actively involved in the actual weight loss portion of the program, because we know that this is a healthy lifestyle. So it's not a diet where you go on and then you get off. It's a habit forming good habits, not restrictive habits. I mean, Eric and Emily, Hank and I, and many of you on the call have been on this lifestyle for a long time. It's not restrictive at all, but it's healthy. And I think once you get the mindset of being on HealthPointe and not Diet Point, and I'm again speaking to folks that are actively involved in the weight loss part of the program and are relatively new, there's two different mindsets. One, I want to come in and I want to lose the weight. And second, the other one is I want to come in, that's Diet Point, by the way. And you go on a diet, you lose the weight, and then you go back to your sloppy habits. Where HealthPointe, you go on and you certainly do lose the weight. Goodness gracious, we have so many wonderful, wonderful examples of that, but it's where you develop healthy habits. And that's why we recommend that book, Atomic People. Get on and read that, even 15 minutes a day, every morning. And it just helps you to understand the power of habits and how habits make something so very, very easy as time goes on. Difficult in the beginning because you're creating new habits, but easy as you move on into the program, because then it becomes knee jerk. It becomes just things you automatically do. So then you're concentrating more on other things you can do to upgrade the things that you're already doing that are healthy. And so I think that all ties in with the mindset that you come into the program. And so I would work very closely with my coach on that if I were you, and just really help to get your whole mind organized in the right direction. So you realize the true value of this program is not the 10, 20, 50 pounds you lose now, but it's all those habits that you create for the rest of your life. So very, very important to remember that. And then the other thing I'd just like to touch on real quick is the app in the HealthPointe kit that you get, the digital app. And I think sometimes we overlook that. Perhaps we as coaches don't put enough emphasis on it. I'm certainly guilty of that myself, where I don't refer back to it enough times to help people to get the habit of checking into that app every day. They just think, oh, well, I can either register when I eat digitally, or I can register it in a book. Well, that's true, but there's so many more valuable things that are on that app. And one of them is the daily reading, the daily messages, I would say. So Eric and his wonderful administrative assistant, a number of months ago, or maybe even a year ago, put all of that on a playlist so you can listen to a message every day. The messages are about a minute long. They're not long messages. Or you can read the message, and it'll tell you each day which message to read. And those are very helpful because they keep you, not only they inform you, but they keep you on target and on task of where you are that particular day. And it's easy to kind of get lost in the shuffle and, okay, I'm eating the HealthPointe way. And then, let's see, where am I? Do I need to go into meal plan days? And it's not your responsibility of your mentor or your coach to know that. It's your responsibility to track that every day. And if you're tracking your journal and you are listening to your daily messages, you'll know exactly what day you are in weight loss day, or menu plan day it's called. And or are you in add more food days? And that will also help you keep on track of where you are in the 6-week cycle. And there's some audio listening in there. There's a couple of DVDs and an audio, but it's all on digital that you can listen to. That's very, very valuable. It gives you, again, a proper mindset. But reading those daily messages, I think, is something that I need to get better at myself. And I know Eric is much better at that than I am. But I would really encourage you as a new person to make sure that you get that little habit of taking that minute out of your morning and reading it so you know where you're at. And so I guess that's probably the point I wanted to make today. And it was geared much more towards the person that's actively involved in creating new habits through the HealthPointe program. So Eric, with that, I'm going to turn it back over to you. And thank you for giving me some time to share.
Y'all always appreciate everything that you have to offer here, Carol. It's so great. And I know you've got so much going on this morning, and to be able to still make it happen, to be able to be on here and add so much value to us is great. So a number of things I could pick up on there. I guess I will pick up on, particularly on the app, because I'm going to be referencing it myself when I talk about leptin, because wouldn't you know it, it is in the daily messages. And I say, wouldn't you know it? Full disclosure, there's been a number of times where, myself, in conversations with Carol, I'm like, wow, I missed this in the daily messages. It's one thing about, being a facilitator and being a coach is kind of that protege effect where you get better by helping someone else. They say if you ever want to get good on a topic, sign up to teach that topic. Because if you have to teach someone, first of all, you kind of take on a different mindset. And that's why we always encourage people to pay it forward, whether or not you're going to be a facilitator or a coach or not, in the official standpoint. First of all, there's a lot of people out there right, that just need help. They need help with type 2 diabetes. They need help with their overall health. And so for that reason is, I obviously recommend, you know, you know, paying it forward and recommending this program. But the other thing is that it will make you kind of flip into a bit of a different mode. When you have introduced somebody to this program, and again, maybe not necessarily an official coach or facilitator, but at the same time, they might have questions for you, and you might find yourself getting into those daily messages. I guess is my point, is that if somebody asks you questions, and well, you want to be able to at least occasionally answer those questions. Sometimes you can say, hey, check with so and so, they're a coach or facilitators, but occasionally you want to be able to answer that directly yourself. So you kind of dig into the material a little bit more. And boy, I tell you, and Carol, I know you and I have had these topics before. We're like, did we not ever read these? I mean, where did this almost seems like it's a new set of daily messages, because you're like, where was this? I know I read it before. I know I listened to it before, but I just didn't catch it last time. Now I'm catching it. And it's really interesting in that regard.
Eric, tying in with that, I think the other thing is if a person is actively involved in HealthPointe, which we all should be, and that is to maybe once a cycle go through and read the journal again, because we listen to the audios, we read the messages, and then somebody asks us a question and we don't remember where we got that from. And I think the more times that you can read the user manual, most of it is in there in one way, shape, or form, and it really clarifies it. And that also is available digitally. So if you get in the habit of doing that at the beginning of each cycle, or maybe once a month, read it if you're not on the actual HealthPointe cycle program, I think that also really clarifies and burns in the basic ideas of HealthPointe, so that you will have those answers, not to everything, none of us do, but many answers you'll have, because it'll be embedded in your mind because you've read that user manual for a number of times. So
that's a really good point. And the journal itself, the journal, I tell you, just to get those little quotes that are in there on a regular basis, the little Jim Rohn quotes and stuff like that, that alone is really valuable, because it's so much of what this is mindset. And so to be able to have that additional information, but it's interesting, kind of a cute way I know whether somebody is reading the daily messages, and some of you might be able to relate to this, is actually if they're frustrated because the way the daily messages work is that when you're new, they load into your app daily. You don't get all 45 messages. Remember that it's a 6-week cycle, so that's 42 days, and then there's the 3 days of prep. So there's a total of 45 messages. You don't get all 45 messages right away. You get, day 1, day 2, day 3 from the point that you download the app. And so sometimes people are like, where is this message? Well, that little bit of frustration tells me that they're actually checking into it. Although, full disclosure, when it comes to the Voices of HealthPointe YouTube channel and the playlist that has the daily messages on there you can skip ahead. You can listen to all of them at once if you want to in a playlist. And Carol, as you mentioned, they're just a minute or two a piece, and that's if you're playing them at regular speed. And these days I listen to so many things at a 1.5x or a 2x, and just really burn through that content. And it's certainly there. I would recommend that for anybody that is coaching someone to go through and you can burn through all 45 messages pretty quickly while you're walking, just being on a 2x speed there. And it's a good refresher, so that you're prepped to be able to help people as they're moving through their HealthPointe journey. Well, I've mentioned, before, of course, we have some people that say they want to talk. Other people, we say you can raise your hand or send over a message. But as we've been saying recently, just give a shout out if anybody wants to be commenting or has a comment on something that's said. Feel free to give a shout out. And of course, I'll always be the teacher, so to speak, where I'll just call on you. Make sure you're not sleeping during this 8 o'clock in the morning class, right? So that said, anybody want to jump in? I know we've got Larry in here. I see David out walking. We've got Hank in here, and Erica, and my wife Emily. Who's probably prepping for her long run right now. Anybody feel like jumping in?
All right, I'll pop in since I wasn't able to join you guys last week.
Good morning, Kathy.
Good morning. It's great to be back with everybody. I missed everybody last week.
Awesome.
So the sleep thing, I'll just going to say just a little testament, because when I had first started HealthPointe over 5 years ago and lost 58 pounds in like 6 month time frame, just for anybody that's new, I did not sleep very well at all before I started HealthPointe. And I swear to God, like within probably like the first or the second week, I started sleeping better. And it was just like, I wasn't waking up all the time in the middle of the night. I don't know why I was waking up all the time in the middle of the night before, but I just wasn't waking up all the time. And I was like, wow, this is kind of cool. I'm like, I guess there is something to say about being healthier and sleeping better, So I never really knew any of the science or any of the technical stuff, but I will say, as I started losing some weight, I started sleeping better. So I'm interested to hear more about this Leptin thing. So you can, I know Eric, you'll give us the science behind it. So that'll be, that will be cool. With that being said, so for those of you who are new, I am happy to say I represent the phrase, the step queen of our HealthPointe community. And today I will have done 10,000 steps consecutively for 1 year and 358 days. Without stopping anytime, whether I'm in the ER at the hospital, I'm in the hospital room, visiting a family member, working. I get the majority of my steps. I'm an administrative assistant for an educational service agency. So I get the most of my steps on my lunch hour in our third floor lobby, which I did all this week. And different people were like, oh, you're getting your steps in today. Yep, I am, So several people know I do it. They don't ask, but they know and they see. So, and some of them will come by and be like, yeah, I really should probably walk a little more than I do, and I'm like, well, I'm always here from 11:15 to 12 o'clock. If you want to join me, feel free to walk around the lobby with me for 10 minutes,
So literally next week, you're going to be, this day next week, you're going to be 2 full years.
Yeah, that's right. Wow. Yeah.
That's awesome. That's awesome. It's fun to be, part of this journey. I just love that you chime in from time to time on these Saturday walk and talks where you're at on that. And all of us are, have that mental model of tracking along with you. And it's just, so much of what we talk about on here is habits, right? And it's so much of the HealthPointe program, the healthy lifestyle, is building healthy habits, and that the steps is not only the benefit of the steps itself, right, for the movement and the the physiological effect of it, but as we've often talked about before, if you're getting 10,000 steps in, it's pretty tough to do that without planning. If you're planning, you're in the game, you're in the mindset, right? It's I think I was talking with maybe it was Carol, you and I were bouncing some things around where it's kind of like going to class, right? You know, it's tough to say if you're taking a course or college or something like that, that you're really doing it if you're not going to class. You know, that's kind of a basic prerequisite that you go to class. And you can fool yourself all you want to say, hey, I'm really, working hard at this. But if you don't go to class, it's kind of like you got to be in the mindset and go to class. And I think of steps, and I don't know if my metaphor is making sense here, maybe just in my own mind, but if I plan to get steps in, or if I plan to get movement in, then it puts me in the game. I feel like I'm in the game. I'm not sitting on the sidelines. So it's a real powerful mindset thing as well as a physiological thing. If you're planning your steps, if you're planning your movement, usually you're hitting all the other elements of HealthPointe as well. So congratulations on that. We're looking forward to next week. You better be on here, Kathy, because I know your Fitbit won't give you any love on there, because I think it was last year you said you were waiting for all kinds of bells and whistles to go off on your Fitbit, and it did nothing. It just said, next day.
You're on a 366 day streak is exactly what it said.
Right.
So, but now we got this Pacer app from the iPhone. So we'll see what that's gonna do. I mean, I get a pretty colorful confetti drop every day after I reach my 10,000 goal. So maybe it'll be like double confetti. Who knows?
Well, we will be your confetti droppers next week on our Saturday morning here. But congratulations on that. And anyone else want to be, before I call on you? Anybody else? What was that movie? Where he says Bueller. I don't know.
There's Bueller's Day Off.
There we go.
Yeah. Got to reference that movie a lot.
No, it's hilarious. Anytime I say, anybody else want to chime in, and going once here, I feel like saying Bueller. Come on, David. I know that you've seen that movie, right? You're muted there, by the way, but I don't know if you want to chat, or Larry.
I just shared with Chris that we have no reference to the movie that you're talking about.
Right. Are you serious?
So what's the title of the movie?
Ferris Bueller's Day Off.
Ferris Bueller's Day Off, David.
He skips a day he skips a day of school because he's hit sick.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, ask Carrie. Carrie's seen it. Carrie's seen it for sure.
It's pretty hilarious. It's pretty hilarious one. I would recommend it. I
am nowhere near prepared, but I'll jump in. And so talking about being in the program and mindset, I mentioned it, I think before, but if you set the goal that you're going to get at the beginning, I don't know, 6,000 steps, 7, 8, whatever it is. When you set that goal, you start intentionally doing things that help you to increase steps. And I just know, and so my goal is 8. I sometimes do 9, sometimes I do 10, sometimes I do more, but my minimum is 8. And so at night, I'm watching a hockey game and I'm at 6,500. Okay. So between periods, I get up and I walk. And good morning. And so when you have that mindset or that goal, it pushes you to go and cross that, whatever the minimum threshold is your goal. I just want to thank you. In addition to the other things that you get when you start the program, are the audios that you and Carol put together. And so again, so much of what we do is a mindset. And so it's getting your head in the right place and staying in the right place. Another bounce is losing weight and all that. But once you get a little deeper into it, you start realizing the different things that you do that are making the organs inside your body extremely happy. I'm always very cognizant of when I take my muscle multiplier that it's something that helps to get the fat off of my liver so that I don't have fatty liver. Does many other things as well. And so I guess that's about it, as I'm running out of breath here. But at least I got some sunshine. It's cold out.
Yeah, we can see that sunshine, but boy, it is chilly out and snowy out as well, at least here in Michigan. You know, you mentioned about the audios. I know we were talking about the daily messages earlier, and I know Carol is, I believe, busy with getting organized here for an Easter egg hunt, but I want to give a big shout out. I know it was a bit of a collaborative experience, but Carol is what put together that top 10 mindset, kind of a mental detox list. And guys, I don't know how many times I've listened to the Young Moms panel. For those that are listening to this and just hearing my voice but not seeing me, just full disclosure, I'm not a young mom. Okay. And yet that is my favorite. And that's my point there is I almost wish it had a different title, because, you know, with a title like the Young Mom, you know, somebody like myself might go, you know, I'll go on to a different one, or maybe I won't listen to that one or pay attention to it. Just the first 20-30%, you know, the intro of that Young Moms panel, where it's basically a full walkthrough, a quick walkthrough of the HealthPointe program. That alone, for somebody that's on this program to listen to that Young Moms panel and get that repetition of what a 6-week cycle, you know, looks like, how it kind of breaks down, you know, what your prep days are, your 6 weeks, your metabolic adjustment, and then also going into lifetime maintenance. It's just a great, you know, first segment of that audio. And then of course the panel is Young Moms, and that is more, yes, it was Young Moms, but it could have been dads or anybody in there that has to prep and live their lifestyle in accordance with a healthy way, a HealthPointe way. And so I don't know, maybe we'll talk to Casey about renaming that audio or something. But you know, so even people like me that aren't a young mom will be attracted to listening to it. It is so good. I don't know if you guys agree on that, but it is such a great audio on there. And I find myself listening to it and sharing it out a lot. It's one that is a real good one to share out for those that have the share feature within the app. So big on that.
One more thing now that I've caught my breath.
Sure.
Up to this point, I've responded. The one thing I wanted to share this morning was last week, I think I shared that I saw a massage therapist. And when I talked with her about microplastics and the article from the New England Journal of Medicine, she started talking to me about it. And so she was well informed. And she was the first person I ever heard say that we eat one credit card of plastics. She said a month. Well, I'm watching another YouTube this week by a person who has, 500,000 followers, talking about plastics and pollution. And in the middle of his talk, he said that we all consume one credit card of plastic a week. And so one of the things that Eric sometimes shares with us is that we're like the frontiers. It's hard to get people to understand because we're so on the cutting edge of the knowledge, but more and more people are becoming more and more aware of this as we go along. So my hope is, as I plant my seeds like Johnny Appleseed about our water purification system, that down the road when people get more educated, they'll think of me. Now I'm done.
Yeah.
Thank you.
A great point. And just to kind of double tap on that a little bit, because we can't over talk this subject. This is new. Well, it's new news and it's not new news. The news about microplastics and nanoplastics getting into our bloodstream has actually been, I've seen articles and commentary about it, for a number of years. But what is new is the New England Journal of Medicine publication that was, I think, March 7th. So just a couple of weeks ago, that didn't just talk about microplastics being in the bloodstream, but rather, and you can look up the article, just Google New England Journal of Medicine, microplastics, and you'll find it. What was significant in this and literally just as blowing up the headlines left and right is the link to over a 4.5 time increase in what they call a hazard ratio, cardiac hazard ratio. So heart attack, stroke, and all-cause mortality. So again, you can, I'm not prepped to go through the New England Journal of Medicine article like I did last time, but basically what they did in this study, it was a 3-year study. I think it was 307 patients, and they did a procedure where they basically scraped the tissue off the carotid artery to determine if there's microplastics in there, and there was. And so this is basically, again, verifying that these plastics that we're ingesting are finding their way not only into the bloodstream, but collecting in our arteries. And then again, where this was very notable is that the hazard ratio, as it's called, basically comparing patients that had that microplastics in their carotid artery versus those that did not. Those that did had a 4.53 hazard factor increase in the incidence of the risk factor for heart attack, stroke, and all-cause mortality. Now, to give you a perspective on that, if you reference a British Journal of Medicine 2018 study on smoking, which most of us think, okay, we're well aware of that. We're not as aware of microplastics until now, but there was a time when we weren't that aware of smoking, and we now associate smoking with a risk, heart disease and so, among other things. But the citation in the British Journal of Medicine is a 2 to 3 hazard ratio. So microplastics is 4.53, smoking is 2 to 3, to give you perspective. And all of this is all very alarmist and very sensational, and can leave you in a panic unless you've got something to do about it. And fortunately, the timing couldn't be more impeccable. We've got the new eSpring water treatment system, because the number one source of microplastics, of nanoplastics, everybody thinks bottled water, and yes, bottled water is a big one. But in fact, the amount of plastics in a liter of bottled water is ranging around 10 particles per liter. But it's not just bottled water. It's, how is your tap water getting to you at your kitchen sink? Okay. Most cases, I mean, we don't run as much copper and stuff like that anymore. So you've got plastic piping and so forth. So here's the bottom line, whether it's for microplastics, nanoplastics, we've talked about PFAS, particularly here in Michigan and the contamination there, or just making your water taste better. We've got the solution with this new updated version of the eSpring filter. And, so you can do something about it. Now, there's other sources of microplastics that, you're still going to consume, but the number one way you consume microplastics, according to, numerous articles, is through water, through drinking water. You're cooking, and, think about it in HealthPointe. We talk about drinking half your body weight in ounces of water. So if you're 200 pounds, that's 100 ounces. Do the math on that. That's a lot of water, and then cooking and so forth. So, and then just from a cost standpoint, the cost of filtered water compared to buying water is, there's the initial investment for the filter, but then after that first full year, you just replace the filter cartridge, and your cost per gallon is way, way, way cheaper than other forms of, buying water. And especially when you find out that the other water can be doing you extra harm. Okay. I guess I'll segue. I feel like I've already segued. So sorry for the monologue going on here. I want to cover, actually, before I get into leptin, I want to give a shout out. I don't want to steal her thunder because she would be covering this, except that she, I believe, is mid-flight with family and kids and grandkids. And some of you have heard Julie on here on our Saturday mornings. A lot of times she's a fly on the wall, but sometimes she'll pipe up. And I just want to give a shout out to Julie. She gave me permission to do this, and that is that she, when she came into the program, her motivating factor for coming into the program is she had received one of those diagnoses on her annual blood exam with a doctor of being pre-diabetic. So her A1C numbers, and for those that aren't familiar with A1C numbers, it's basically, it's a kind of a more complete measurement of your blood sugar, through glycation, your hemoglobin A1C number. Anyhow, her hemoglobin A1C number was high for the first time, and it kind of, you can imagine that effect that it had. And so her motivating factor was to get that down. And so she was at 6.1 on her A1C numbers when she started the HealthPointe program. She's now down to she just got the report 2 days ago, and it's 5.7. So she is thrilled. I knew it would happen. I had absolute certainty it was going to happen because she's also following HealthPointe to really, really great. She's down nearly 30 pounds and just hitting all the markers on all the elements of HealthPointe. But that said, she wasn't necessarily so certain that she would be down in a healthier range on her A1C numbers. So guys, that is huge. When you can correct your A1C numbers like that, that is really, really huge. So hopefully we'll hear from her in her own words in the future. But right now, I think she's literally on a flight right now. So, all right. So, and this won't necessarily be a big elaborate topic, but one of the reasons I wanted to talk about leptin, and let me also point out, because since we talked about daily messages, this is there a part of it, of discussion about leptin is in your daily messages, and specifically it's on day 22, which is day 16 in the weight loss. But if you go to the daily messages and go to day 22, you'll see where they're referencing leptin in there. But really what they're referencing in day 22 is the importance of sleep for weight loss. And so I would say, definitely hit the daily messages either in your app and read through that. It's a quick read, or hit the audio version on it on the playlist on the Voices of HealthPointe YouTube channel and just listen to that. But sleep is one of those things that a number of us can be guilty of this, particularly if we're, doing a lot of things and, I don't know. I think, and the way I'm justifying this is kind of part of the problem. If you say, oh, I'm ambitious and I'm doing this and I'm kind of burning the candle at both ends, there's a certain amount of pride, it seems, that goes with getting, not enough sleep. Well, guys, it couldn't be any more opposite. And I'm guilty of having to learn this. Emily, my wife, who is on here as well, can attest to it. She does a great job of getting, adequate amounts of sleep. I'm getting better at that. And guys, the more I understand the science behind it, it's like anything. If you kind of understand the mechanisms behind it and what it's actually doing, instead of somebody just saying, you should get X amount of sleep, you're like, okay, why? Why not, burn the candle at both ends? And well, there's a lot of reasons why, and maybe we'll get into some of the other health benefits of sleep. But on the subject of weight loss, there's a hormone called leptin. So there's actually in the day 22, they talk about leptin and they talk about ghrelin. Okay, think ghrelin, growling, your stomach growling. Ghrelin is a hormone that will signal. Again, hormones are signaling devices. Ghrelin will signal to eat, like your stomach's growling. That is ghrelin. But on the opposite end of the spectrum is a hormone leptin. And I think of leptin when I think of the value of leptin and kind of a bit of a picture in my mind. I think of, you want to leap into bed to get your leptin, leap into bed, I leapt into bed. And the reason you want to leap into bed is to get the adequate amount of sleep so that you have adequate production of leptin. Leptin is the, kind of think of it as the opposite of ghrelin. Leptin is a signaling hormone that will signal to your body that you are satiated, that you are full. If you don't have adequate leptin production, or you can also have leptin resistance, similar to how you can have insulin resistance. Insulin resistance doesn't mean you don't have enough insulin. A lot of times if you're type 2 diabetic, you might be injecting insulin into your body, but you still can have resistance. But if you're not getting adequate amounts of sleep, you can have a lower production of leptin and therefore a lower capability of feeling satiated when you have eaten enough. Okay. And so that's a big problem with a lot of people that are struggling with obesity, is either leptin resistance or and we heard this from Kathy earlier too, how much better she slept as she got healthier. Well, if you're heavy, obese, or weight loss as measured by the body, BMI indicator, you could literally be at a deficit on this signaling hormone in your body that helps you feel satiated. When I was reading through this and doing just a little bit of research on it, I couldn't help but, of course, think in terms of what's been all the rage, or certainly all the rage in 2023, and that's the GLP-1 class of drugs, the injections like the Ozempic and Mounjaro and so forth. And basically, what are they doing? They're doing it in a different manner, but they're trying to make it so that you feel full, right? So that you feel full quicker, so that you don't eat as much. And we've had a lot of discussions on here about GLP-1s, and we've cited Dr. Mark Hyman on it in terms of, some of the issues with lean muscle with that. And I'm not going to go into that, but what I am going to point out is that the reason people have gravitated so strongly towards these injections that you can take in your belly and inject yourself with these GLP-1 class of drugs is because it signals that they're not feeling as hungry, right? And so nothing better to help you lose weight than just not feeling hungry and like you're always needing to be eating and so forth like that. Well, you've got one of those in your control without injecting yourself. It's called getting good sleep, getting adequate amounts of sleep so that your body is producing adequate amounts of the all-important hormone leptin. So guys, we all want to leap into bed, get your leptin production, and have that come to your assistance to help you with that signaling device in your body, so that when you're full and you feel satiated. And so not surprising, as I looked into it, and I'll wrap with this on the topic of leptin. If you were to do a little bit more research on it, there's 6 things to help you with optimal leptin levels. And tell me if any of these sound familiar. Number 1, adopt a nutritious diet. Sound familiar, anyone? Okay, number 2, regular physical activity. Hello. We just talked about, getting our steps in. Of course, that's inherent in the HealthPointe program. Number 3, we're talking about right now is adequate sleep. And again, that is, right in the HealthPointe program, day 22 in the daily messages. Number 4, manage stress levels. We don't necessarily focus on that specifically in the HealthPointe program, but in many cases it is talked about, right? We talk about mindset and so forth. But number 4 is manage stress levels. Number 5, avoid severe calorie restriction, right? HealthPointe, boy, it's one of the things that we have to actually sometimes fight with people on, because they're wanting to restrict. And yes, we do go into there's times of restriction, say with the jumpstart days on the 6-week cycle. And of course, we're looking at reducing you're certainly restricting highly processed foods and so forth, and restricting the carbs and sugars that we would normally get. But you don't want to have severe caloric restriction, and that's number 5, avoid severe caloric restriction. And then number 6, consider omega-3 supplements. I'm going through this list and I'm going, who wrote this report? Are they a HealthPointe aficionado that in residency that we're not aware of? Because all of these could be scripted right out of the HealthPointe manual itself. So again, to go through that, adopt a nutritious diet. Number 2, regular physical activity. Number 3, adequate sleep. Number 4, manage stress levels. Number 5, avoid severe calorie restriction. And number 6, consider omega-3 supplements. So guys, if you do all of that and just make sure that you do get number 3, the adequate sleep, you will be in a healthy position as it relates to your production of leptin. And then as you lose weight, if that's your goal on HealthPointe, then that also will help with your leptin resistance that might have kind of crept into your biology. So, all right, so that is my segment. We've got a little bit of time left. I'm going to go into Bueller mode if I don't hear from somebody. We've got Larry on here. We've got Marilyn on here. Marilyn, I don't know if you want to chat or not.
Okay, Eric, I'll say something.
Hey,
Get my
Larry.
Can't seem to get my camera on, but I won't worry about it. Hey, I wanted
There we
to
go. Now we see you.
Okay, I wanted to stick with that topic about mindset, because that's the thing that that the underlying current kind of gives in HealthPointe, is that you change your mindset. As Hank often says, we have to have a change of thinking. And I think that as I and many of the people that have been on this HealthPointe program, the ones that are starting it, thinking about it, you start to get a change of thinking. And your change of thinking helps you with sticking with the program. I think I talked about this one time. Sometimes motivation gets us started. We always have some reason that we're motivated to get started for losing weight, getting healthier, whatever our reasons are. We all have our own reasons, and we try to find that out right at the beginning of the HealthPointe program. But eventually, we get to the point where it becomes a habit, just like Kathy's walking every day. And some of the things that we're learning in HealthPointe, then when it becomes a habit, then we don't necessarily need the motivation, because motivation gets us started, but habit keeps us going and gets us where we want to go. Now, one of the things that I've started doing and taking more advantage of is using cues to help me keep on the program, setting things up so that it's easy for me to remember the things that I need to do. Having water with me, carrying food with me, just doing the things that we need to do, taking a look at my at my Fitbit to make sure that I'm getting my steps in. Sometimes I have to, I have to remind myself, okay, time to get up, because I have a tendency to just chill, as my granddaughter says. And so sometimes you can chill too much. Okay. And so sometimes you need to get up and be moving. And then, then you start to realize that your mind is starting to develop, as Carol often says, that healthy relationship with food in your mind, where you have those cravings. And believe me, I have cravings. I'm a good eater more than anything else. Okay. So you have cravings and you have those things that you want. Usually those cravings are usually things that maybe you ought to, not have, or maybe not have so much, or just limit. And so, the HealthPointe program helps you to start developing that kind of mindset. And I want to say that I think that, most of us, as we start to get results, the way that we thought at the beginning and the way that we're starting to think now is helping us to develop that right mindset to get where we want to go. So, hey, that's all I wanted to add. Thanks so much for the time to do that. And thanks for the program, Eric.
Absolutely, Larry. I love the fact that you jumped on here and everything that you said there. But one of the things regarding having cues and setting up cues, and I know that James Clear talks about that in the book Atomic Habits. And you gave some examples of that, and I just think that for those that say are, I don't know, they're trying to start a habit to walk 5,000 steps in the morning before breakfast. Probably one of the most important things you can do is the night before to have your shoes set out. That's a cue, to have your stuff ready, because if you are thinking, when you get out of bed, that you've got to find your shoes, you've got to find your whatever that you need in order to get these steps in, you're probably going to struggle with that. But these cues, like Larry is referencing, is so important, just to kind of set these things up ahead of time around you to optimize your chance of getting into that habit. And it's sometimes it's so small, and maybe you guys have heard this metaphor used before, where they say that if you put a little block of wood in front of the wheels of a freight train while it's standing still, on tracks, that freight train can't get through that little 1-inch block of wood or 2-inch block of wood. I don't know if that's factually true or not, but you get the point, is that, just something as powerful as a train. Now you get that train going, 50 miles an hour down the track, a little 1-inch block of wood, it doesn't even feel it. It explodes through that. You put a 12-inch block wall or pile up a bunch of bricks in front of a train that's going 50 miles an hour, and it's going to blow right through that. And so much of what stops us many times in, say, developing some of these healthy habits, it's just that little block of wood. And if you can just do these things like is talked about in the Healthy Habits, the James Clear, such as cues like Larry is talking about, to just remove that block of wood that is just that little impediment that is in front of the wheels of your freight train, and just get that initial momentum going, and then a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more. And boy, you get up to that 30, 40, 50 miles an hour to continue with that metaphor. And boy, you have no problem with these healthy habits. It's quite then it's the opposite, right? If just like trying to slow down a train and bring it back to a stop, it can be a lot of work. And that's what we want. We want in our healthy lifestyles, we want it to be like, for Emily and I, it would be hard for us to reverse and change and go into like unhealthy eating, unhealthy hydration, definitely unhealthy, or stopping supplementation. That would be the equivalent of trying to slow down a freight train that's going 50 miles an hour. It would be really hard to get us to reverse all of that at this point. And so that's where we love being, right? Because then the momentum just carries us. So, well, I think we are pretty much wrapped up on the hour, unless anybody has anything that they would like to finish off the program with. Any comments at all? Anybody at all? If not, Bueller. Dave, I can't wait for you guys to see this movie. As Kathy said, you're gonna laugh, or at least you're gonna laugh when I say that phrase anymore. But with that, I think we're gonna go ahead and give it a wrap. We're right on the 1 hour mark here. I'll get this uploaded onto YouTube, onto the Voices of HealthPointe. So those that aren't able to make it live, or maybe those that just want to review this, can get that repetition in. But anyhow, guys, as always, I've personally had a blast during this, and I learned so much from all of you. It's a real highlight of my Saturday, but we'll sign off for now and plan on seeing those of you that can make it next Saturday, same time, same place, 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, same Zoom link. And until then, you guys have a great rest of your Saturday, and we'll see you then. Bye-bye.
All right. Thanks so much, Eric. Appreciate it.
Yes,
You
thanks,
bet.
Eric. Everybody have an awesome weekend and week.
Bye, guys.
it.
Stay warm.
All right, see ya.